This is James R. Copeland, the Director of the Center for Legal Policy at the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research. And it's my pleasure to welcome today Paul Atkins of Potomac Partners, formerly a commissioner with the Securities and Exchange Commission. We're here to talk about shareholder proposals and how they're influencing American corporations, something we've been exploring for the last 2 years through the Manhattan Institute's Proxy Monitor project, which includes an online database of shareholder proposals at the largest 200 corporations in America. What we've discovered is that over the last few years, there's been a marked increase in the number of shareholder proposals related to corporations' political spending. And these proposals, in fact, in 2012, represent a plurality of all shareholder proposals. So, Paul, how would you explain this increase in shareholder proposals related to corporations' political spending?
Well, Jim, I think basically this is a political year. It's divisible by 4, so we have a presidential election. And I think that has generated a lot of this because you can tell by some of the groups that are putting these proposals forward, they basically have a special interest that they're trying to pursue, and it sort of happens to coincide with an election year.
So, Paul, we've seen an increase in the number of these proposals, but what we've discovered looking at our data on Proxy Monitor is that, in fact, they haven't been gaining any deeper support, any larger share of the vote when shareholders actually get around to voting on them. How would you explain this, the lack of traction that we're seeing for these shareholder proposals related to political spending?
Well, I think, Jim, that institutional investors realize that this is a very complex issue, that it can't be really reduced to sound bites. And so they are studying these and voting accordingly. And they realize that corporations need to be involved in the public affairs realm and be involved in issues with public debate. And that boards of directors have a fiduciary duty to look after the best interests of all of their shareholders and not just certain ones with special interests that they're trying to advance. So I think in that context, there's a decision to give discretion to boards and to have them execute on their fiduciary duty.
Fascinating, Mr. Commissioner. Well, we'd really like to thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Again, this is James R. Copeland, the Director of the Center for Legal Policy at the Manhattan Institute, with Paul Atkins, former Commissioner of the Securities and Exchange Commission.